we are again. It looks like it is time to tear this thing down. The winter weather is undoubtedly going to be here soon. For you guys in the north, yeah, it's still not winter here in Texas. But anyways, you saw the last video. We cleaned the injectors and found out that they were really clogged, and that was undoubtedly causing some problems. Some of them were as much as 50% clogged. So I got those cleaned up, got them put in the engine and fired it up and found out that it still had a dead miss. And I don't know when it happened. It could go all the way back to the dyno tuning last year or the dyno tuning this year. There were two different turbo setups, but anyways, it made big boost on some of those pulls and it shouldn't have, and it wasn't tuned for that. So what I think has happened is the number one cylinder has some pretty substantial leak down and or low compression. So what we're going to do is we're going to tear this thing down, at least get the heads off of it and get an idea of what's going on inside of it, so we can get it fixed properly and maybe even do some upgrades this winter. So, well, let's get started on it. This is one thing I like to see, is when you set up a bronze gear like this and it's in good shape, because this used to be an MSD Pro billet distributor and I machined that housing and that pickup, and that involved re-shimming all this and getting it all set up. So that's good to see that that brass gear is still in really good shape and it's not doesn't have sharp edges and stuff on it. So if anything, I got one thing right. Now let's see what's not right. Time to break this stuff loose and see what surprise hides behind door number 3. Okay, we got the head off of that side, off the passenger side, and the number one cylinder, the number one chamber, it looks good. And I want to show you guys one thing, because I know a lot of people are weird about reusing head gaskets. But I'm here to show you, or I want to show you, how good these gaskets look after 6 passes and some runtime. I mean, these things were sealed up tight this time around. And keeping in mind, they had leaked water previously really bad. But again, once a copper head gasket blows the seal, the water seal, it's never going to stop leaking because it's just copper. But anyways, look at this gasket in this chamber. That's the cylinder that had the problem, and you can see the gasket is still just as clean as can be, particularly towards the water ports, which is where they, right there, which is where they usually go. So the next thing is to pull the other head off and get a look at it. But this cylinder was really low on compression. The piston looks fine, and I'll grab the camera and take you over there and show you that too. So head gasket leaking, again, never really was much of a concern, not to me at least. So this kind of reiterates that there wasn't a problem there at all. So let's check that cylinder out and see what it looks like. All right, so you can see the piston looks fine. What I would expect to have seen is maybe burned right here or right here. You're not going to be able to see it in the camera, but down the sides of the piston I can see the ring like it should, and it looks like it's floating. And what I mean by that is it's not pinched. So first impression would be that we got a crappy valve job, or not necessarily a crappy valve job, but a valve seal problem in that hole. Really hard to say without tearing it down completely and just getting a look at it, which is what I fully plan on doing. But the good thing is the piston's not chewed up as far as I can tell. So on to the next step. All right, we got the head off of this side of the car also, and the thing I was worried about the most, or not worried, but I wanted to see the most, is that the head gasket was sealed 100% around every hole. And best I could tell, it was sealed really good. You can see the areas that it was leaking before right there in the triangle right there is still really clean. There's no signs of black carbon, you know, going across there like it's leaking from the cylinder out to the water jacket. That piston is still clean, but it didn't have hardly any runtime on it. And not only that, the injectors weren't really moving a whole lot of fuel to get it dirty in the first place. So I guess all in all, I'm glad that the head gaskets are sealed or stay sealed like they should have been. But I'm not sure what is going on with that number one cylinder over there, or why it was so dead. But nonetheless, we'll go ahead and pull the engine out, tear it down, and see what's going on inside of it, particularly in relation to the rings and whatnot. Then we'll just kind of go from there. There's both the heads standing up next to each other. This is the driver's side front, passenger side rear. And driver's side front, the one with the clean piston on the other side. As you can see, it's still good and clean and sealed up. No black streaks around here. And then this side, everything looks good. This is a little bit stained right here on the passenger side, and this is the back of the passenger side. I looked at the block real good, and I think you can probably see it earlier in the video, but that area on the block is crystal clear. So I'm not really too concerned about it leaking right there. And even if it was leaking, with those injectors flowing so very little, I guess anything's possible, because every cylinder was running way leaner than it should have been. And this is the cylinder that's down on compression. That's why it's marked right there. Not quite sure what's going on there. Like I said just a second ago, we're going to tear it down and see what's going on with it. Alright guys, so we skipped a few steps there. The short block is on the stand. We're going to check this thing out real good, tear it down, and kind of get a look and see exactly what happened to it. I've already popped the number one piston out, and I wanted to show you guys something up close. So part of the problem that I see already is, I don't know if you can be able to see this in the camera or not. See if that'll focus on that ring. Come on, get a good shot of that. You see that reflection on that top ring there as I rock the piston back and forth? And then same thing for that second ring. So that top ring is chewed up, and all of the coating that's on the ring is gone. And I don't know if this is any better. Let's see if we can get a better look at it. Yeah, so you can see it real good right there. All the coating is gone off the top ring. The second ring is in good shape. And then the other thing that I noticed is this pin is tight in the rod itself. I can see the letters on the pin when I go to turn it, and the letters are staying stationary as I rotate the piston, which means the rod, the bronze in the rod, the bushing is probably got a little scoring in it. So we'll get this short block the rest of the way apart and get a look at it and see exactly what we got to work with. It looks like the number 6 piston probably suffered the same fate, the rings at least. coating's kind of chipped up on it a little bit. It moves freely, and the important part of the bearing, I think you can see that. Come on, focus. Wake up, camera. The important part of the bearing is in really good shape. So, not too overly concerned with it. Probably better safe than sorry to get it torn down and get new rings in it and live to tell another day. Okay, well, I got the engine tore down the rest of the way, you know, with the exception of removing the crank. All the bearings, all the rod bearings are in spotless shape, so that's good. The rings, not all of the rings were beat up like the one I had showed you in the camera, which is kind of cool, kind of good, I guess. I think there's a number of things that I think could have happened, but one is this engine's been together for about 2 years. It hasn't been running that entire time, and it was in the blue car that I put on the dyno in the very first few videos of the channel. So when I took it out of that car and I put it in this one, this car sat outside for a while, and you know, it got rained on and whatnot. The intake was taped up, the upper was not on it. But what I think has happened is a few intake valves were open and some moisture got down in those cylinders and put some rust in those cylinders, because there's evidence of rust in some of the holes. And I think the rust is actually what ate up the rings. I can't be certain of that, and it's purely speculation. But there's really nothing wrong with the other cylinders, so that's why I say that. It's not all the cylinders, it's just a few. So I guess live and learn. I'm going to take the short block, or I'm sorry, I'm going to take the block to the shop and the heads, get the valve job checked out, make sure the leak down isn't coming from that, and get the block honed, and probably some new freeze plugs, and put it back together. So that's it for the video, guys. I'm happy that there's no burned up pistons, which is what I expected to find, just judging by some of the scoring on the cylinders, and it wasn't bad. It'll hone out, it'll be fine. But anyways, that's the end of the video. We'll put the engine back together in the next couple of videos and hopefully get the car fired up in a short amount of time. I guess we'll find out. Thanks for stopping by, guys. I appreciate it. Merry Christmas, have a Happy New Year, and we will see you in the next video.